Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to take a long, honest look at something that might make a lot of us uncomfortable. Something that might not sit well because it goes against our deeply embedded cultural narratives. It challenges everything we've been conditioned to believe about human connection, about the strength we draw from others, and about the stories we tell ourselves when we're vulnerable. But the truth is, those moments of discomfort are exactly what we need to dive into if we want to understand what it means to be truly independent. Not just in the superficial, I can handle it myself kind of way. No, I'm talking about something much deeper, a raw, unflinching self-reliance that can only come from the decision to face life without the safety net of needing someone to save you. So let's talk about this idea you don't need anyone. Do it alone. Now, I can feel the weight of those words settle in the room like a heavy cloud. I know, because we're all wired to think that the absence of others means isolation, it means loneliness, it means being left behind. But what if I told you that doing it alone doesn't mean shutting people out? What if doing it alone means fully stepping into your power, taking control of your narrative, and moving through life knowing that you are the sole author of your story? That no matter what happens, no matter who comes and goes, the story is yours to write. And no one, not your partner, not your friends, not your family, can take that away from you. I want us to dig deep into what it means to stand alone. Because standing alone is not about rejecting support or pretending like you don't need love or connection. It's about acknowledging that the core of your strength, the bedrock of your resilience, is inside of you, not outside of you. It's about realizing that you can go through the hardest parts of life, loss, failure, fear, and come out the other side, not because someone carried you, but because you carried yourself. And when you learn to carry yourself through the storm, you become unshakable. Let me tell you something that's probably not going to feel comfortable at first at some point. Everyone will let you down. I don't say that to be cynical or pessimistic. I say that because we're all human. And humans are inherently imperfect. People will break promises, they'll fail to show up, they'll say things that hurt you. And sometimes they'll walk away altogether. And if your sense of worth, your sense of identity is tied to those people, to their actions, or to their presence in your life, you will crumble every single time. You will spend your life picking up the pieces after someone leaves, after someone disappoints you, and you will always feel like you're lacking something. Like you're incomplete without them. But you're not. You are whole, you are complete, and you are enough all on your own. There's a kind of freedom in realizing that you don't need anyone to make you whole. It's not the kind of freedom that makes you push people away or stop caring about connection. It's the kind of freedom that allows you to connect deeply and authentically without fear of losing yourself in the process. Because when you know deep down that you are enough, when you've built a foundation inside yourself that is strong and unshakable, then the presence of others becomes a gift, not a necessity. It becomes something you appreciate, not something you depend on. And that's the key. The difference between needing and wanting. Between dependency and desire. When we need people in our lives to validate us, to make us feel worthy or loved or whole, we give away our power. We hand over the keys to our emotional well-being to someone else, and that's a dangerous thing to do. Because people are unpredictable. People have their own baggage, their own stories, their own wounds, and sometimes those things will get in the way. Sometimes they won't be able to be there for you in the way you need. And if your sense of self is tied to their presence or their approval, you'll feel lost, broken, and betrayed. But if you can shift from needing to wanting, everything changes. You can still desire connection, love, companionship. You can still value relationships and the people in your life. But when you shift from needing them to wanting them, you take back your power. You can stand alone in your own truth, in your own worth, and not feel like something is missing if those relationships don't look the way you imagined or if they fall apart altogether. Doing it alone doesn't mean you have to be alone. It doesn't mean you isolate yourself or refuse help when it's offered. It means that you stand on your own 2 feet. That you know deep down in your bones that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. Because you've built something inside yourself that no one can take away. A foundation of self-love, self-worth, and self-trust. And here's the thing about trust. We talk a lot about trust in relationships, about trusting others, about how important it is for building connection and intimacy. But we don't talk nearly enough about trusting ourselves, about what it means to be able to rely on your own instincts, to believe in your own ability to navigate the ups and downs of life, and to trust that you can handle whatever comes your way, even if you have to handle it alone. Self-trust is the cornerstone of doing it alone. Because when you trust yourself, you're not afraid of being alone. You're not afraid of the quiet moments, of the space between relationships, of the times when it feels like no one is around to catch you. You're not afraid because you know that you are capable of catching yourself, that you can walk through the fire, face the fear, and come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more resilient. And resilience, true resilience, is not about bouncing back. It's not about putting on a brave face and pretending like everything is fine when it's not. True resilience is about allowing yourself to feel the pain, the fear, the uncertainty, and moving through it anyway. It's about standing alone in the storm, feeling the full force of the wind and rain, and knowing that you have the strength to weather it. I want to talk for a moment about vulnerability because there's a misconception that doing it alone means closing off, that it means not letting yourself be vulnerable. But in reality, doing it alone requires a kind of vulnerability that is incredibly brave. It requires you to stand naked in front of your own fears, your own insecurities, your own doubts, and say, I can face this. It's not about pretending to be invincible or pretending that you don't need help when you do. It's about being honest with yourself, about acknowledging your own humanity and still choosing to stand tall, to move forward, and to trust that you can find your way, even if the path is unclear. There's something profoundly empowering about that kind of vulnerability, because it's not about putting on a mask or trying to convince yourself or others that you've got it all together. It's about embracing the messiness of life, the uncertainty, the mistakes, and knowing that none of it diminishes your worth or your strength. When you do it alone, you learn to take full responsibility for your life, for your choices, your actions, your growth. You stop waiting for someone to come along and fix things for you to save you from the hard stuff. You stop blaming others for where you are or for the things that have gone wrong. And in that responsibility, there is immense power. Because when you take responsibility for your life, you take control of it. You become the driver, not the passenger. You decide what direction you want to go, and you have the courage to make the tough choices that will get you there. You learn to trust yourself to make the right decisions, to know when to stay and when to walk away, when to fight and when to surrender. And that kind of self-trust, that kind of agency is what makes you unstoppable. There will be moments when doing it alone feels hard, when the weight of it feels too much to bear. There will be moments when you question yourself, when you wonder if you're strong enough, brave enough, capable enough. And in those moments, it's easy to want to reach out for someone else to carry the load, to make it easier, to take away the pain. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out for support. In fact, reaching out for support is a sign of strength, not weakness. But the difference is this: when you're doing it alone, you don't reach out because you need someone to save you. You reach out because you want connection, because you value the presence of others, because you know that you don't have to do everything by yourself. But you also know that at the end of the day, you are the one who will carry yourself through. Doing it alone is about knowing that you are enough, that no matter what happens, no matter who comes and goes, you have everything you need within you to face life's challenges. It's about trusting yourself to navigate the unknown, to make mistakes and learn from them, to fall down and get back up again. And it's about knowing that your worth is not dependent on anyone else, not on their approval, their love, or their presence in your life. You are whole, just as you are. And when you can embrace that truth, when you can stand in your own power, in your own worth, you become unshakable. You become the kind of person who doesn't just survive life's storms, but thrives in them. Because you know that no matter what happens, you can handle it. You can carry yourself through. And that is the kind of strength that no one can take away from you. So I invite you to step into that strength, to embrace the discomfort, to lean into the vulnerability, and to trust yourself fully. You don't need anyone else to make you whole. You don't need anyone to save you. You have everything you need inside of you. When you stand in the truth of your own strength, something remarkable happens. The fear of being alone, of facing things without the cushion of someone else, begins to fade. The anxiety that comes from imagining life without a partner, without a mentor, without someone to lean on, it dissipates. Why? Because you've done the work of cultivating something far more valuable than external support. You've cultivated an inner resilience that no one can take away from you. And that's where real freedom lies. You see, there's a story that many of us carry deep within us, a story we've been told since we were children that we need someone else to be complete. That life is somehow about finding our other half. That until we do, we're missing something vital, something fundamental. It's woven into the fabric of our culture, embedded in the fairy tales we hear as kids, reinforced by the love stories we consume as adults. But that narrative is a lie. I want you to hear me on this. It's a lie. You are not half of anything. You are not incomplete. You are not waiting for someone to come along and fill the gaps in your soul. Because there are no gaps. There is nothing broken about you that needs fixing. You are already whole, just as you are. And once you let go of that story, the story that tells you that you're somehow lacking, that you need someone else to make you whole, you'll find a different kind of story. A story that's rooted in your own power, your own worth, your own ability to shape your life on your terms. Think about it. If you walk through life believing that you need someone else to complete you, what happens when they're not there? What happens when they leave, when they change, when they can't give you what you need? You crumble, you fall apart because you've tied your sense of self to something outside of you, something you can't control. And that's a terrifying place to live. Because if your worth is tied to someone else, then you're constantly at risk of losing it. But when you do it alone, when you recognize that no one else holds the key to your worth, you take back your power. You stop giving away pieces of yourself in exchange for love, for validation, for approval. You stop waiting for someone to come along and tell you that you're enough, because you already know that you are. I'm not saying that relationships don't matter. Of course they do. Human connection is one of the most beautiful and meaningful parts of life. But relationships should be a place where you come to share your wholeness, not to seek it. They should be an exchange of love, not a transaction of worth. Too many of us have lived lives that are half-lived because we've been waiting for the right person, the right time, the right opportunity. Waiting for permission to be ourselves, waiting for someone else to tell us it's okay to take up space, to have a voice, to demand more from life. But here's the truth, no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to give you permission to live your life fully. You have to decide here and now that you are enough, that you don't need to wait for someone else to validate your existence. That you are the only one who can give yourself permission to live boldly, to dream big, to take risks, to fail, and to try again. This is what it means to do it alone. It's not about isolation. It's not about shutting people out or refusing to let others in. It's about standing in your own truth, in your own worth, and knowing that you are capable of creating the life you want. regardless of who's standing beside you. And yes, there will be moments when you doubt yourself. There will be moments when the old stories creep back in, whispering that you're not enough, that you can't do it on your own, that you need someone else to make you whole. And in those moments, it's easy to want to fall back into the comfort of dependency, to reach for someone else to fill the void. But those moments are also your greatest opportunity. They're your chance to choose a different story, a story where you are the hero of your own life, where you are the one who steps up and saves yourself. I want you to think about the moments in your life when you felt the most proud of yourself. Really think about it. The moments when you've achieved something you didn't think was possible, when you've overcome a challenge that felt insurmountable, when you've pushed through fear and come out the other side stronger. Were those moments defined by someone else? Or were they defined by your own courage, your own tenacity, your own willingness to show up and do the work, even when it was hard? I'd bet that those moments, the ones that you carry with you as proof of your strength, had very little to do with someone else. They had to do with you. With your choice to keep going, to fight through the fear, to trust yourself when no one else was around to offer validation or approval. This is what I mean when I say you don't need anyone. It's not about denying the importance of connection or relationships. It's about recognizing that your greatest moments of growth, of transformation, of resilience come from within. They come from your own decision to stand in your power, to trust yourself, to face the challenges head on, even when it feels like the world is stacked against you. So what does it look like to do it alone in a practical sense? It looks like waking up every day and choosing to live in alignment with your values, regardless of what others think. It looks like taking responsibility for your happiness, for your growth, for your life, and not outsourcing that responsibility to anyone else. It looks like setting boundaries even when it's hard, even when people don't understand, because you know that protecting your energy and your peace is more important than being liked. Doing it alone means being willing to walk away from situations, from relationships, from opportunities that don't serve you, even if it means being misunderstood. Even if it means facing the discomfort of uncertainty. Because you trust yourself enough to know that you can handle it, that you can create something better for yourself, something that aligns with who you truly are, not with who others want you to be. It looks like showing up for yourself, day in and day out, even when it's hard, even when no one else is watching, because you know that your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you'll ever have. It looks like speaking kindly to yourself, being gentle with yourself when you make mistakes, and allowing yourself the grace to grow, to change, to evolve. It's about listening to your own voice above all others, not in a selfish or self-centered way, but in a way that honors your truth, that honors the unique path that only you can walk. It's about recognizing that no one else can walk that path for you. And it's about having the courage to keep walking, even when the path is unclear, even when it's difficult, even when you feel like you're the only one who can see the way forward. This is the journey of doing it alone. It's not an easy journey. It's not the path of least resistance, but it's the path that leads to the deepest kind of freedom. The freedom to live life on your own terms, to define success for yourself, to create a life that reflects who you truly are, not who the world expects you to be. And yes, there will be times when the loneliness creeps in, when the weight of doing it alone feels too heavy to carry. But in those moments, I want you to remember this: you are stronger than you think. You are more capable than you know. And the very fact that you are willing to face this journey, to walk this path, to do the hard work of standing in your own power, is proof of your strength. The people who live the most fulfilled, the most authentic, the most courageous lives are not the ones who are waiting for someone else to give them permission. They are the ones who have given themselves permission. The ones who have decided that their life is their own, that their worth is inherent, and that they don't need anyone else to tell them who they are or what they're capable of. So if you've been waiting for someone else to validate you, to approve of you, to tell you that you're enough, stop waiting. If you've been holding back, playing small, because you're afraid of what might happen if you truly step into your power, stop holding back. This is your life, no one else's. And you have everything you need inside of you to live it fully, to live it boldly, to live it without fear. You do it alone, and in doing it alone, you'll discover a strength, a resilience, a power that you never knew you had. And that more than anything else is what will carry you through. And let's talk about fear for a moment, because fear is at the heart of why so many of us hesitate to step fully into our power, why we cling to the idea that we need someone else to guide us, to be with us, to make us feel secure. It's not just the fear of failure, though that's part of it. It's the fear of what it means to be truly alone with ourselves, to face our thoughts, our insecurities, our wounds without the distraction of someone else's presence, without the buffer that relationships sometimes provide. Doing it alone forces us to confront our deepest fears. The fear of not being enough, the fear of being unlovable, the fear that if we stand on our own, no one will be there to catch us if we fall. And that's the paradox, isn't it? The very thing we fear the most, being alone, is the thing we must face in order to truly understand our own strength. There's a reason why so many of us distract ourselves with relationships, with busyness, with the constant noise of other people's voices. It's because when we're alone, the noise quiets down. And in that quiet, we have no choice but to listen to the voice inside ourselves, the voice that we've been avoiding, the voice that tells us the truth about who we are and what we want from life. But here's the thing, that voice, as uncomfortable as it might be to hear at times, is also the voice of your intuition, your inner wisdom. It's the voice that knows what you need, that knows what's best for you, even when the rest of the world is telling you otherwise. When you do it alone, you learn to trust that voice. You learn to tune out the noise of other people's opinions, expectations, and judgments. And you begin to listen to yourself. And that's when things start to shift. Because when you can truly hear yourself, when you can trust yourself, you stop needing the approval of others. You stop needing someone to reassure you that you're on the right path, because you already know that you are. You stop looking outside of yourself for validation, because you've learned to give it to yourself. Doing it alone is, in many ways, an act of rebellion. It's a rebellion against a culture that tells us we should always be seeking something outside of ourselves, a partner, a mentor, a community to make us feel whole. It's a rebellion against the idea that we are incomplete until someone else comes along and fills the gaps. It's a rebellion against the fear that has kept us playing small, that has kept us waiting for someone else to tell us it's okay to be who we are. And rebellion, true rebellion, isn't loud. It isn't about shouting from the rooftops or making grand gestures. It's quiet. It's subtle. It happens in the moments when you choose to honor yourself, even when no one else is watching. It happens when you decide that your life, your happiness, your growth are worth more than the fleeting comfort of external validation. I want you to think about a moment in your life when you felt truly alone. Maybe it was after a relationship ended. Maybe it was during a time of transition when you weren't sure what was coming next. Maybe it was in the middle of a crowded room when you realized that no one else really understood what you were going through. In that moment, it probably felt heavy. It probably felt like the weight of the world was on your shoulders, like you were carrying a burden that no one else could see. But I want you to think about what happened next. Did you crumble? Did you give up? Or did you keep going even when it felt like everything was falling apart? That moment when you felt the most alone was the moment when you discovered something important about yourself. You discovered that you could survive it. You discovered that you had a strength inside of you that you didn't know existed. And that strength didn't come from anyone else. It came from you. That's what doing it alone teaches you. It teaches you that you are capable of surviving the things you thought would break you. It teaches you that you can navigate the darkest moments of your life without losing yourself. It teaches you that no matter what happens, you will always have the capacity to stand up, to keep moving forward, to create a new path when the old one disappears. But doing it alone is also about more than just surviving. It's about thriving. It's about realizing that you don't have to wait for someone else to create the life you want. You don't have to wait for the right partner, the right job, the right circumstances to start living fully. You have the power to create that life right here, right now with what you have. And that's where the real magic happens. When you stop waiting, when you stop believing that your happiness, your success, your fulfillment are dependent on someone else's presence in your life. When you stop playing small because you're afraid of what will happen if you step into your full potential. Doing it alone means stepping into your power, not in spite of your fears, but because of them. It means embracing the uncertainty of life, the unknowns, the risks, and choosing to move forward anyway. It means understanding that the only person who can truly shape your life, who can truly create the future you want, is you. Now, let's talk about failure for a moment. Because when we talk about doing it alone, we can't ignore the fear of failure. It's one of the biggest reasons we hesitate to step out on our own, to take the leap, to go after the things we want. We're afraid of falling flat on our faces. We're afraid that if we do it alone and we fail, there will be no one there to catch us. But here's the truth: failure is inevitable. It's part of the process. It's part of growth. And doing it alone doesn't mean that you won't fail. It means that when you do fail, you'll learn how to pick yourself up. You'll learn how to take responsibility for your mistakes, how to adjust, how to try again. And that is far more valuable than never failing at all. Because when you know how to pick yourself up, when you know how to learn from failure, you become unstoppable. You stop being afraid of making mistakes because you know that you can handle whatever comes your way. You stop playing it safe because you realize that the only real failure is not trying at all. And when you do it alone, you also learn that failure is not a reflection of your worth. It's simply part of the journey. It's part of figuring out what works and what doesn't. It's part of discovering who you are and what you're capable of. And when you embrace failure as a teacher, rather than as something to be avoided, you open yourself up to a whole new level of growth. So if you're afraid of failing, if you're afraid of falling, I want you to remember this: you have fallen before, and you have gotten back up. You have failed before, and you have learned from it, and you will do it again. Because you are resilient. Because you are capable. Because you don't need anyone else to save you. Doing it alone is not about being perfect. It's not about never needing help or support. It's about recognizing that at the end of the day, the person who will carry you through is you. It's about trusting yourself to navigate the ups and downs of life, to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, and to keep going, even when it's hard. And yes, there will be times when you feel tired. There will be times when you want to give up, when the weight of doing it alone feels too heavy to bear. But those are the moments when you discover just how strong you really are. Those are the moments when you realize that the strength you've been looking for outside of yourself has been inside of you all along. Doing it alone doesn't mean you don't feel fear or doubt or uncertainty. It means you feel all of those things and you keep going anyway. It means you trust yourself enough to take the next step, even when the path ahead is unclear. It means you believe in your own ability to create a life that is meaningful, that is fulfilling, that is yours. So, if you've been holding back, waiting for someone else to give you permission to step into your power, stop waiting. If you've been telling yourself that you need someone else to make you feel whole, stop telling yourself that lie. You are already whole. You are already enough. And you have everything you need inside of you to create the life you want. Do it alone, not because you have to, but because you can. When you step into this mindset, when you choose to rely on yourself, you begin to see the world differently. The obstacles that once seemed insurmountable are no longer towering giants in your way. They become stepping stones. You start to understand that challenges aren't there to break you. They're there to build you. They shape you, refine you, and help you discover the kind of person you're capable of becoming. And the only way you reach that kind of transformation is by going through it, by doing it alone. There's an incredible kind of clarity that comes when you're no longer waiting for someone else to walk the path with you. When you stop looking for a hand to hold or a voice to guide you, you're forced to tune in to something much more powerful, your own inner compass. That compass is always there, always guiding you, but it's easy to ignore it when there are other people around, when there's noise and distraction. When you do it alone, you learn to trust that compass. You learn to listen to the quiet voice inside of you that knows the way, even when it's not the most obvious or popular path. And here's the thing: that voice is not always comfortable to listen to. It might tell you to take risks, to leave situations that feel safe but aren't serving you, to step into the unknown when the known feels so much easier. But every time you trust that voice, every time you follow it, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. You prove to yourself that you are enough, that you don't need someone else to validate your choices, to tell you what's right or wrong for you. You become your own guide. This is the heart of doing it alone. It's about learning to trust yourself so deeply that even when the world feels uncertain, you know that you can navigate it. Even when everything around you seems unstable, you know that you are stable. You are the anchor. You are the one holding your life together, not because you have to, but because you've chosen to. And let's talk about choice for a moment. There's a certain kind of power that comes from understanding that you always have a choice. In every situation, in every moment, you have the power to choose how you respond, how you move forward, how you show up for yourself. Doing it alone is about embracing that power. It's about recognizing that no matter what happens, you have control over your actions, your mindset, and your life. So often we fall into the trap of thinking that life is happening to us, that we're at the mercy of circumstances, other people, or fate. We tell ourselves that we can't do it alone because we need someone else to help us navigate the challenges, the obstacles, the uncertainty. But the truth is, you are far more powerful than you've been led to believe. You have the ability to choose in every moment how you will respond to life's challenges. You can choose to be a victim of your circumstances, or you can choose to rise above them. You can choose to let fear hold you back, or you can choose to move forward, even when it's uncomfortable. When you do it alone, you are forced to take full responsibility for your life. You can't rely on someone else to make the tough decisions for you. You can't look to others to tell you what to do or how to live. It's all on you. And while that might sound daunting, it's also incredibly liberating. Because when you take full responsibility for your life, you also take full control of it. You stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to live the life you want. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions, the right timing, the ideal circumstances. You realize that there is no perfect moment. There is only now. And now is the only time you need. Taking responsibility for your life means owning your choices, your mistakes, your successes, and your failures. It means understanding that everything you experience, whether good or bad, is a result of the choices you've made. And this is not about blaming yourself or feeling guilty for the things that have gone wrong. It's about empowering yourself to make better choices in the future. It's about recognizing that you have the power to shape your life. And that power is not dependent on anyone else. When you do it alone, you also learn something incredibly important about relationships. You learn that the best relationships are not built on need, but on choice. They are not about filling a void or completing each other. They are about two whole people coming together, choosing to share their lives, their love, their experiences, not because they need each other, but because they want to. And that's the kind of relationship you deserve. You deserve to be with someone who doesn't need you to complete them, but who chooses to walk beside you because they see your strength, your power, and they respect you for it. But before you can have that kind of relationship, you have to be that kind of person. You have to be the person who is whole on their own, who doesn't need someone else to make them feel worthy, loved, or enough. And that's what doing it alone is all about. It's about becoming the kind of person who is so grounded in their own worth, so secure in their own identity, that they don't need anyone else to validate them. It's about building a life that is so full, so rich, so meaningful, that any relationship you enter into is simply an addition to the abundance you've already created. But getting to that place takes time. It takes work. It takes courage. It takes being willing to sit with yourself, to face your fears, to confront the parts of you that feel unworthy, unloved, or incomplete. And it's not an easy process. It's uncomfortable. It's messy. It's painful at times. But it's also the most rewarding work you will ever do. Because when you come out on the other side, you will know without a shadow of a doubt that you are enough. You are capable. You are strong. And you can do it alone. The journey of doing it alone is not linear. It's not a straight path. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when you question whether you're strong enough to keep going. There will be times when the old patterns creep back in, when you feel the urge to rely on someone else, to seek validation, to look outside of yourself for answers. And that's okay. That's part of the process. But each time you choose to turn inward, to trust yourself, to rely on your own strength, you reinforce the belief that you are enough. Each time you face a challenge on your own and come out the other side, you build a deeper sense of confidence and self-reliance. And eventually you'll realize something profound. Doing it alone doesn't mean you're actually alone. It means you've learned to be your own greatest ally. It means you've discovered that the relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship in your life. And when you cultivate that relationship, when you nurture it, invest in it, and strengthen it, you realize that you are never truly alone. You always have yourself. This is the paradox of doing it alone. It's not about isolation. It's about connection, the deepest, most meaningful connection you can have, which is the connection you have with yourself. When you do it alone, you are building a foundation of self-love, self-respect, and self-trust that will carry you through anything life throws at you. And that foundation will be unshakable because it's rooted in something far more powerful than the approval of others. It's rooted in your own truth. And when you stand in that truth, when you fully embrace your own worth, something amazing happens. The fear that once held you back, the fear of being alone, of not being enough, starts to fade. It loses its power over you because you've proven to yourself time and time again that you can handle it, that you can do it, that you don't need anyone else to make you feel whole, loved, or worthy. And that is the kind of freedom that no one can take away from you. Doing it alone is not about cutting yourself off from the world. It's not about building walls or shutting people out. It's about building a life that is so full, so rich, and so deeply aligned with who you are that you don't need to rely on anyone else to feel complete. It's about creating your own happiness, your own success, your own fulfillment from within. And when you do that, the relationships you build, The people you invite into your life will be there because they choose to be, not because you need them to be. That is the ultimate form of strength. That is the ultimate form of self-reliance. And that is the gift you give yourself when you choose to do it alone.